Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to look at doing an RC conversion on a Bruder 9620 RX. I've had my eye on one of these for a long time. Finally got my hands on one today. Really impressed with the tracks. Really neat rubber on it with kind of plastic pads on the bottom side. Very flexible, real easy to move and turn. And so I'm really looking forward to this. It articulates as well as kind of rotates a little bit. So that might show some challenges for when to hook up the steering linkages and drive shafts. But yeah, so really looking forward to get into this. This might change as we go. Preliminary, I was kind of thinking about using some of these 1/14 scale all metal differentials. I've used these in a couple other projects and really like them. Hoping to get to use these. I know a lot of guys, or some guys, have put motors on each track. I was kind of hoping to use a differential with a Dropbox. So hook the motor up to one and have two outputs. And so actually I have two differentials here. I'll put the tractor to the side for a second. So two differentials with a Dropbox, and then I'll have an ESC motor controller, 60 amp, and then actually here's a motor out of one of my Grand Haulers or King Haulers. I might throw in for now. Depending on what the speed is, I may change to a different motor, as well as I have a reduction gearbox, like a 3-to-1 reduction gearbox for the motor. Once I had all this stuff, you know, I bought all this stuff initially. Once I got this tractor, I don't know if it's all going to fit in there. So this will certainly be a work in progress. This first video is just kind of be getting the most of it broken down and take a look at what we're going to do. But I'm kind of hoping that the differential fit through here. I can kind of do the drive shaft above the steering or the swivel mechanism, and then obviously get a differential up in front here, and hopefully there'll be enough room for a battery up in here, and put the steering servo and the motor controller and this motor and Dropbox and all that, hoping I can get it all to fit. So I'm hoping I don't have to tear this whole thing apart and ruin it and not be able to use it again. So and then I also got a couple of the metal gear servos like I use in the D11, so I'll use one of these for the steer mechanism. So just looking for drive and steer, and obviously add some LED lights. I'll put some hopefully put some strobes in here, hopefully put some LEDs in the front, so light up a little bit, make it look good. So let me get this out of the way and we'll start the breakdown. I spent a little bit of time earlier, I don't know if you can see my computer screen, drawing up a sprocket that will fit on this differential. So it's on the printer now, you can hear that in the background. So it's kind of a first draft. We'll see if it works or not once we get this apart. So the first thing I can do is just take the tracks off. They come off pretty easy, and again, really like these tracks. Really impressed with them. Move easy, and just a high quality track for the toy that this is. Got this off eBay for about 119 bucks. I'm kicking myself because a year or two ago after Christmas, Roll King had all their toys 50% off, and there was these, there was D11s, all kinds of Bruder toys. And why I didn't just go nuts and buy them all, I don't know, because I could have got this thing for less than 50 bucks or around 50 bucks, the D11s for less than that. So tracks come off. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the actually I'm going to split this in half and take it apart. So there's a keeper pin right here, and there's a small little hole. You can put a pick in there, and actually got a small screwdriver. I did a little bit of straightening up on my desk. Where's the screwdriver? Actually, I'm going to use these needle nose, or these I said needle nose. These small tweezers. Stick it in there, push that pin in, and then you can start to pry this out. This there pops out, that comes out, and now this comes apart in 2 halves. So it's now just a little bit easier to manage. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cab off. If you look Inside here, there's a hole here, right down in there, and then one on this side. That releases the front clips of the cab, and then there's a couple tabs here and here to release the back part of the cab. So I'm gonna push these in first, kind of separate the back half. Actually, I'm gonna get these tracks off. To get the tracks off, there's 4 keepers. There's one on the front and one on the back, and then there's 2 in here. There's a small little hole in there, and that was kind of designed to put a small pick in and pry on it. So one thing I did on this already is I took my drill, and it might be a little hard to see. There's a small little hole. I took my drill and made that hole a little bigger so I can get a pick in there a little bit easier. So I'm going to shove one in there, and get one in this side, and I'll squeeze them together, and that releases those 2. And now I can start to force this up, and you'll see there's a small keeper there. I'll keep that forced up, and then take a screwdriver and just do the same on the front, and this will pop off. Almost had it and I lost it. So all these Bruder toys can always be just a little bit of a challenge. Getting out, I need to go expand my pick selection. There we go. So that pops off. We're gonna ultimately we'll pry these wheels out and cut this down, because this bottom carrier we're gonna snap back in, but then we'll have to cut this out and mount the differential with these drive sprockets from the top side. So those wheels will be attached to this part, and then these bottom rollers will hook back down on it. So that's kind of my initial plan. And so let's set this to the side for a second. We'll set that to the side for a second. And now we'll take this cab off. So again, there's a push in there, push in there. You can feel this back one kind of pop out. And then push in there, push in there. So there's the top of the cab starting to come off. So push these again. The cab actually comes off really easy. I was kind of surprised. So the cab came off pretty easy. We'll set that aside. That'll make it easier for hopefully put a couple lights in here, maybe hook up one of the strobes. We'll see. This hood just kind of pops off. So there's a hood here, and then there's a kind of clip. Most likely, I don't see myself breaking this down much more. I'm actually going to cut this open. Now I'm still going to leave the holes there so the cab will clip back on, but I'm going to cut this open so I have access to put the motor and stuff like that in there. I'm going to cut the top of this engine off to be able to, because that differential's got to fit down in there. Now I want to try to leave that as intact as possible, so when the hood's on there you still see that bottom part of the engine, but like this hood kind of lifts up some so you can see that. We're not going to worry about that because I'm going to try to hook a battery right in here. So let's go ahead and take this one off. There. So I got those in there. I'm kind of just push in. So you can see I'm just taking 2 things, pushing those tabs in, and then while you're doing that, lift up a little bit on this. Oop. Yeah, those pop off. That's off. I can put these carriers back on, put those bottom rollers back on. So now that's taken apart also. Next thing I'm going to do is there's some pins. These sprockets are just kind of pressed on there. I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and pull these off. Going to hook to it, wedge a little bit. It's come off easier for me in the past. There we go. So it's coming out. Take that pin off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to snap these back on and snap them back on and drill a hole through there, like you can see I've done here, so I know where that differential is going to go. I know where the center of that wheel needs to be, and right now that's going to be in my alignment hole for when I start cutting this out to put the differential in. I'll make some marks on here knowing, because I need that sprocket to be centered up right where it was before. So pop those wheels off and take this off, because actually we're actually going to cut this top part of this off, because that differential will come through and then these will still slide up from underneath. So our differential and axle will be attached to this top part, and then we'll slide this back up underneath there and to put our tracks on. So these will still come off. So like I said, this is going to get cut out. So I'll save that for another day. But we can pull all those pins out on all four of these. Alright, so that's all. Take it down. We're going to set the cab off to the side for now. We'll set the hood off to the side for now. Put this front half. So now we need to look at opening all this up to get to the differential. These have those classic Bruder tabs in here, which is like a double tab. So this black part clips against this green part, and then this other green part here locks it in. So in most situations I just trim these back a little bit, because the parts will still clip in. So I'm just going to cut these off, which makes it easier. And looks like we got a screw broke on this one, which this I picked up. Actually, this one I picked up for Buddy. I'm waiting for mine from eBay to come in. So that I'll take off for now. I'm not going to worry about the screw, because we're going to lose that anyways. So now we can kind of look and see what we're looking at for mounting this differential. So this differential's coming forward there. We will have to cut some of this out. You can kind of see in this housing, that's kind of what the fake differential is. That's not in the right spot. So I'll off camera I'm going to do some cutting and grinding and get this to where that needs to be. And then my drive shaft will actually have to come out and over top of this steer mechanism. So like I said, off camera I'll get this cut and mounted, and then I'll show you what I've done once I get that done. So let's set these off to the side for now. Like I said, so this one, this half, once you take the grill off, this thing basically separates in two halves. Probably will ultimately have to separate it. My thought is I'm gonna cut a cavity out on top here about where this step is, and that's where my draft shaft's gonna come through, and that drop box will be right in here. So that drop box is probably going to be somewhere about right in there, down a little bit lower, and the motors and gears and all that is going to be right up into here, covered up by the, hopefully we'll covered up by the hood. I'm hoping to be able to get this low enough so that I can keep the cab pretty well intact. This might change. I might not have enough room to put all this stuff in here, so I got to get this opened up, and we'll see from there. But that's a general breakdown. We'll take a little more of this apart as we go and see what room we got. It looks like you have the typical Bruder tabs everywhere else. So we're going to separate this thing in half and go from there. So. Okay, so there it is torn apart. We'll come back and take another look at it. So I got the interior taken out of the cab. Actually, now that it's out, I'm kind of glad it's out, because I think I'll take some paint and paint a little details in here, just make it a little less bland. But I'm kind of surprised this steering console raises and lowers, and so pretty good chance I'll have to cut some of this out. You know, by looking on, you'll probably see some of the Dropbox and stuff like that, and I'll have to cut a channel out here for the drive shaft. But overall, I think this is going to work. The motor's going to go on top here, and the drive shaft will kind of have to come up. So I'll see how that works with the interior. And then the front differential will go right in here directly below the motor. We'll have a drive shaft going from here down, drive shaft going from there to the motor. And then with this going on back, the drive shaft will come up through the top here. So we'll cut a hole out here to have room for that drive shaft so it can swivel and turn. And then the rear differential is going to be somewhere in, you know, that will have to get cut out. It'll be somewhere up in there. So I might even angle that up. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, I think this plan is going to work. So because of that, I'll probably start hacking into this a little more and try to make room for the motor. I'm pretty confident that the top half of this actually this whole engine may have to come out, so the differential has room. If I do have to take this engine compartment out, I'll try to save it and use as many pieces as I can to put back in there, so when the hood goes back on, it will look halfway original. Pop this up real quick, because I got to go with the aesthetics. I can't completely butcher this. So, you know, that motor's going to have to be all the way up in here. So this plastic's, most of it's going to be gone, but I do have to leave this frame so the hood will fit back. Out of everything else, even if all this is open, you can see the motor and the differential. The hood's got to go back on there. And I might take these pieces and cut it out and glue it a little bit wider out, because there's obviously a lot of room in there currently. Like if that's sitting right there, there's a lot of room where I could take that piece and bring it out a little farther, so I have room for this motor to fit in there. But you know, I'm looking forward to this. This should be all right. I may end up finding that I have to cut a channel out, and you might see the top of the drive shaft through here, but we'll keep the steering column in. So if I do have to cut that out, I'll glue this in so it doesn't come out. You know, I'll put some black paint on the pedals. You know, maybe put a little color in this here, maybe put some color on the display. Just give it a little bit of color in there to make it look a little better. Obviously this is 1/16 scale, not 1/14 scale like the all the Tamiya Grand Hauler, King Hauler, because this is our guy and doesn't quite fit in there. He fits in there, but not too bad. So I guess he fits in there all right. He obviously looks a little big. He's a big guy. So Overall, for the first teardown build, pretty happy with this. Got a game plan for what we're going to do. I think this is all going to work out. My battery will go up on top under the hood. I do got to think about, I do have to have room for the steering servo. So as I look at this, the kind of what I'm thinking is on these, I'll just rip it open. The servo, I'm going to mount this all the way at the bottom, and the horns will be out, and I'll get a wide horn that will have two arms going from here to here, and so as that spins, it'll do that. So the steering linkage is most likely going to be visible underneath. I don't have the room to put it in up top. So hopefully, because I've got to get the motor in here, differential, drive shaft's going up, your steering cylinder here. So then I still have to find room for the ESC, which I'm thinking might be able to go up at, like the receiver and the ESC could go up here in the front. So we'll see. This is going to be a tight, the Bruder D11, the dozer, plenty of room for anything we want to do in there. This tractor, not nearly as much. Actually, we have some room down in here. Once the differential's in, we might put the motor controller down in here. So we'll see. I'll play that by ear. Once the main components are put in, the motor, the differentials, we'll look and see where we can stuff the electronics away. When this is all put together, obviously you don't want to tear it apart. We needed to access this stuff. So when the hood comes off, we're going to make an opening so you can get to most of the stuff from the top here. Or I may even make some access panels from the bottom to get to the receiver and stuff like that. So we'll see. Overall, for a first video teardown and overview, I think this went pretty well. So look forward to part 2, where hopefully I'll get the differentials mounted. You notice my 3D printer is going for the sprockets. So in video 2, I want to have the differentials mounted and the tracks on and kind of look at that mechanism, and hopefully in the motor and the Dropbox will go in there. So I'll do a little bit of work off screen, and when you come back to part 2, you'll hopefully see some of the stuff in here.